Coming up, what an excellent day for spiritual advice. Well, howdy folks, and welcome to Minute 82 of the Exorcist Minute, a show where we endeavor to examine, extrapolate, and excavate The Exorcist, minute by terrifying minute. My name is Lester Ryan Clark.
And I'm Keenan Diaz.
And we'll be your holy guides on this journey through what some have called the scariest movie of all time. Okay, so our minute begins with Chris saying, he didn't tell you what she did?
And then ends with her saying, if a person's, possessed by a demon or something.
And there it is, folks. We are finally here. But let's get back to the top of this minute where Chris is still circling around the question. You'll remember in the previous minute, she was asking Karras if Father Dyer had told Karras about her party. However, we learned that while Dyer did tell Karras about the party, he said nothing about Regan peeing on the carpet, probably the most memorable thing about that party. That is, of course, after Father Dyer's stunning rendition of Toity Toit and Toy.
Right. I brought the house down.
Brought the house down, right? Yeah.
Oh, and there were these great hors d'oeuvres there. They're just to die for.
Yes. There's no bathroom breaks. But no, that's the thing you remember about Chris's party, right? Even if you remember nothing else, you remember that her daughter walked up to a guy and said, "You're going to die up there," and then peed on the rug. So Chris is a little confused right now. And also, as you pointed out, Keenan, a little frustrated because it's like now she has to start from scratch, right? Like she was hoping that mentioning the party would be a way to like ease into the conversation. But apparently Karras had no idea she even had a daughter. Chris is still incredulous. So she asks, he didn't tell you what she did? You mean you don't know what she did? My cunting daughter? That was a little bit of Gilbert Gottfried in there.
Oh, the ghost of Gilbert Gottfried.
I'm still here.
Yeah, but I'm sure she's like, if you know about what Regan did, he's like, oh yeah, right. She needs to be exorcised.
Right, yeah.
The way Dyer tells the story. Oh, right. Yeah, I'll sign you right up. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's get the next Exorcist plane to Exorcist Camp.
That's what that van was all along. No, but it's almost like I didn't want to say it, Father. I was just hoping that you would say it first.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah, and we've all been in that situation where it's like I'm just I know that if I say it, I'm going to feel stupid because the risk of sounding stupid is so great that I'd rather, even though I'm like 99% sure, I'd rather somebody else just say it. And I'd be like, you know what? That's a really good idea.
Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah. But Keenan, this time around, that what she said sort of made me think about what Captain Howdy said when when Regan's head was turned all the way around, right? Like, do you know what she did, your cunting daughter? And now she's like, you mean he didn't tell you what she did?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if this was intentional or not, but doesn't that add just a little bit of weight to that line if we choose to see it as an echo of what her daughter had just said to her, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like that connection. Now, Karras has to reiterate here. He didn't mention her. And that right there is different from just saying no. He could have just said no, right? So it could have gone like this, right? He didn't mention her? No. He didn't tell you what she did? No. Right? That's how I would do it. If I was in this situation, it's like, no, right? But instead, it's he didn't mention her? No. He didn't tell you what she did? He didn't mention her.
Mm-hmm.
And you might be thinking, folks, okay, what's the difference? And sure, maybe it is a little bit nitpicky. Certainly, it's about the same thing, but the way he chooses to do it says something. The subtext could be, did you not just hear what I said? I said he didn't mention her. And there's got to be a reason he's choosing to answer her in this way. Now, I don't think Karras is impatient here, even though we had said before that he might be inwardly waiting for her to come out with her problem. I don't think this is him getting fed up with her.
Right.
Rather, I think this is a type of reassurance, sort of along the lines of it's all right. He didn't say anything. You're safe. You can be the first to tell me. I'm here. I'm invested. I'm going to listen. right? And in that way, like he's repeating what he just said, just to make that clear, right? It could also be something like, look, lady, like Dyer didn't give me any prior information. So if you want me to help you, it's going to be up to you to fill me in.
And that's what I think is interesting about the scene. Really, relatively late in the movie, right? We're 80. I forget what you said at the beginning. We're 80-something, 82 minutes into the movie, right? Yeah. And one of the things that they and we, I suppose, as part of the screenwriting and telegistia, like when you tell beginning writers oh, try to skip where they, why do we need the information twice, right? Try to get to the point where, Chris goes to see Father Karras, and you have this whole scene where she's explaining it again, everything we've already seen in the movie. What if Father Dyer's already told Father Karras this? Right. We can shorthand this and get to the real stuff. But that's what I like about this scene is that we're forcing Chris to say out loud what she's experienced, right?
Yes.
And like to reckon with it.
Yes.
And see how embarrassing it is, right? How like there's still like we're right at the precipice of Act 2, right? We're gonna get these people together. They're gonna help each other out. But it's so hard to even say out loud what she wants to say.
Yes. And no, Keenan, you are exactly right. I completely understand the not wanting to rehash, the same old plot and explain again to a new character. And in another movie, in all other movies, I agree with that. But that's the point of this movie is her coming to terms with it. She has to. The challenge is not so much getting an exorcism. The challenge is both of them realizing that an exorcism needs to get done, right? As soon as that happens, fast forward a little bit, folks. As soon as Karras agrees to do the exorcism, the other priests are like, yeah, who do you want to get to do this? Oh yeah, let's get Father Man. It's like boom, boom, boom. It's the easiest thing in the world. So that's not the hurdle. The hurdle is this scene right here, right? It's the one. It's the one scenario where the bureaucracy is faster than the actual them choosing to do the thing. Yeah.
And there's I like where Futurama.
Yes.
Yeah. So in Futurama, they like making fun of this sort of idea of especially on television, there's a lot of scenes where people are recapping what's happened because there's commercials and on television. I mean, the big difference between television and watching a movie in the theater is that at television, you're at home and you're doing other things. You're expected to do other things. Right. You're expected to be taking care of your kids or maybe not vacuuming, I was going to say, but cooking macaroni and cheese or something simple.
Yeah.
You can hear the TV and running laundry and that kind of thing. So in Futurama, they'll have these scenes, beginnings of scenes where it's like, and then that's when this happened. Oh, yes, we were all there. Why are you telling me this again? And again, you're reminding us. And there's one where I think it's a Valentine's Day episode or something where Fry is dating somebody, and then the girl gets stolen by a guy, and they Fry inadvertently gets them together, and they fall in love, and then they cut back, to the beginning of the next scene, and Leela's like, "So they made love right in front of you on the floor." It's sort of that kind of recap. Yeah. Yeah, so because we could have that, right? We could have we could have Chris show up at Father Karras's, or we just show up with Chris with Father Karras at the Catholic Church together, right? Well, my friend Father Dyer told me what happened to this poor woman, and so we're going to jump ahead, right?
Yeah, Miss MacNeil, I'm Father Dyer, or I'm Father Karras, yeah,
right.
And I heard everything, yeah.
I've heard everything. Don't explain. Yeah. Please don't say anything else.
Time is of the essence. We got to go. Why did it take you so long, Chris? What the? Now she's getting yelled at by the priest. It's like, you mean you waited this long?
No, but the point is that we have to see her struggling to ask for the help of God.
Yes.
When she doesn't believe in God.
Exactly. Right. Yes. But yeah, so Chris is still hesitant, and who can blame her? Honestly, right? Everything you just said, Keenan. Remember how hard it was for Dr. Berenger to say the word exorcism in his own building, surrounded by his own employees and foundation. Yes.
Yeah. They're going to take away his big fancy building. For saying that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, Chris is talking to a priest, right? But again, folks, that just goes to show how incredulous this all seems. And Chris isn't even Catholic. My fellow Catholics, ask yourselves, would you be able to go to your priest right now and ask about exorcism, even being of the faith and talking to a priest? Would you be able to do it and not feel a little weird? Right? So,
yeah, I mean, there are people, I'm sure, who have trouble even going to their own priest and saying that they've had an affair.
Right.
You know, things that people do all the time, or you know, I shoplifted. Yeah.
I'm thinking right now, like if I go to my priest and I say, hey, you know what? I think there's some demonic stuff going on. I just haven't felt right. I've felt a lot of like unexplainable like anger and aggression and everything. They're going to be like, all right, well, let's set you up with the church therapist. And it was like that's the first thing they would do, right? Like there is no universe where I go to my priest and he's like, oh, I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to say. I can see it in your eyes, in your weird demonic green little eyes. I got the Exorcist on speed dial. Let's do this thing. So the next thing Chris says seems to be a departure from the topic. She says, priests are pretty tight-mouthed then, huh? And so here she has found a way to let Karras know, right? Again, subtext, look, Dyer didn't tell you everything that happened at the party. And Karras reads that. He's picking up what she's putting down, but he doesn't take the bait. Instead, he answers, that depends, serving the ball back to her and forcing her to ask, on what? And if you look at Ellen Burstyn's reaction, you can see that she's realized she's walked right into it. She's like, okay, you got me. Depends on what, right? And, you know, so now Chris serves it back. And he immediately counters the priest. And she saw that one coming a mile away. Again, I'm reminded of the fencing match between Karras and Kinderman here, and like where we got like a lot of this. This is like steps in a dance, right? I'm mixing metaphors again.
It's a fencing dance.
It's a fencing tennis dance, right? I know, like, yeah, tennis, fencing, dancing, and he's a boxer. So let's just put that in there, right? But yeah, like we said before, folks, this kind of back and forth, this is like a really good lesson for actors, writers, and directors to be able to write dialogue which is at odds with the subtext, to be able to perform that as an actor and to be able to direct actors so that that subtext comes out in their performance. And it's not just like, you know, two idiots making small talk, right? If you just play the text of this scene, it becomes dull as shit. So hats off to Burstyn and Miller. Miller, who, by the way, was also an award-winning playwright by this time in his career, right? So he knows a thing or two about subtext, right?
Yeah, he probably brought his Pulitzer Prize with him to set. That's what I would do.
Do you see this? Do you see this?
Oh, Billy, I don't know if I would walk over to the table at that point. Let me check with my Pulitzer Prize.
What do you think, Pulley?
I think Jason's right. Oh, that's what he always says.
Yeah. Friedkin's totally bought it. It's like, oh, that's what he always says.
Oh, Pulley.
Okay, but yeah. So after Karras says the priest, they both stare at each other for a beat, and then Chris shrugs and they both look away. Like that one was a draw, right? They got nowhere, but it was intense, like on the way to that nowhere, right? And Chris shrugs and she's like, sure, right? Like you win this round, right? And then something happens. Chris decides she's going to do this. So she just plows ahead, and it's this beautiful bit of stammering and stuttering that feels so genuine. Folks, I know a thing or two about being hesitant with my words, and I do a podcast. But like you've probably heard me stumble through a subject I'm not 100% knowledgeable on, and I think you guys can tell when I go off script, and I'm here to tell you, this little bit of acting here, which is to some degree prepared by Ellen Burstyn, is so real to me. Just the way that she starts one thought and then she trails off and we sort of lose the thread and she comes back in a different place and then she repeats a bit of it. Like, I mean, like, okay, just listen to this like 100% transcribed version. She says, I mean, what if a person came to, you know, that was a murderer or a criminal of some kind and they wanted some kind of help? That's not a sentence. If one of my English students handed that in, I would flunk them. But we understand exactly what she is saying. And not only do we understand, but because she says it in that way, we also get to understand the place that she's coming from. That right there is a brilliant merging of text and subtext. We see that she's nervous, she's hesitating, she's backpedaling, but still determined to get this out. And what comes out is this like garbled, beautiful, touching mess. It's absolutely beautiful.
Right. And it's not just the words she's saying, right? Because that is sort of scripted. She's changed some of it. So in the script, what if a person, let's say, was a criminal, like maybe a murderer or something, if he came to you for help, would you have to turn him in?
Right.
So hers is close. So it's not like she's completely making things up, right? It's not exactly improvised, right?
Right.
Yeah. But she's adapting it to her own state of mind, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, she's made it, I guess, more true to the way that the character would be thinking and would be jumping from one topic to the next.
Yeah, it's probably the longest block she has in this scene. And then it's like, well, I don't know how Chris would get through any line of dialogue that were longer than, 3 syllables in the state that she's in. So this is how we're going to do it. We're going to make it our own. Right?
Yeah.
So it comes out. Have you ever had a dream that you wanted him to do you so much you could do anything?
I love that. Folks, if you haven't seen that meme that Keenan is referencing, it's the sweetest, most so genuine thing. Yeah. He actually I saw on TikTok, like so many years later, he came back and he explained what he was trying to say. As an adult, he's like, "This is what I was trying to say," and all the comments
really
were like,
cute.
"We love how you said it originally."
Yeah, it's really cute. He's like, in my little head, I had this wonderful idea, and I insisted on not telling them ahead of time before they rolled the camera. What it was going to be. It was something like they were doing a documentary about his class. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. And I also so there's a thing that she does when she starts this bit of dialogue. She finishes Chris, not the dream kid. I just want to be clear.
Do we have to talk about The Exorcist? We can't talk about the dream kid.
We can't talk about the dream kid, right? Have you ever seen a movie where the thing, the scariest movie that and then you thought you didn't want to turn off the lights and you became Catholic?
Very good.
But yeah, so I like this extra little thing that Chris does when she starts this dialogue. Mm-hmm. She finishes her cigarette, she drops it on the ground, and then stopping to make sure she's put it out with her foot. Mm-hmm. And I almost want to equate this with her rolling up her sleeves, all right, here we go. Right. And that does something else, too. It forces Karras to stop. And so now when they start up again, it's on her step. It's on her terms. And so she barrels through this thing, makes a valiant effort and finishes it up with, would you have to turn him in? Right. She does that whole thing. If a criminal, would you have to turn him in? And folks, once again, what happens right as she finishes up, right after she drops this question? Here comes another wooden beam in the foreground, another signpost for them to physically pass through. And now, on the other side of that signpost, we can feel that the mood has changed. We are in the same place, but it feels different. The air is heavier. Karras is probably thinking, what have I gotten myself into? Dimmy, you starstruck son of a gun, what are you here? What are you in for, right? Mm-hmm. But now he must answer her question. So, still, not knowing what the hell this is all about, he can only speak the plain truth. Well, if he came to me for spiritual advice, I'd say no. Now, this causes Chris to look up at him sharply. Go back and look, folks. When Karras says that as a priest, he wouldn't turn this hypothetical criminal in, there's this jolt of hope that you can see from Chris. Even though her eyes are covered, it's like, oh, this guy really might be able to help me. I might be able to tell him more.
Just as a reminder for our younger listeners, back then, if you had a question like this that were life or death, there wasn't an internet to search, right? So
Right.
you couldn't just be like, oh, what happens if this happens? And there's a whole Quora or a, Yahoo Answers or whatever, a Reddit AMAs or anything. So like she has no idea what he's going to say, right? And to hear that is like, oh gosh, like this is actually going to work or potentially could work.
Right. And so she asks again. She says, you wouldn't? And the way he quickly answers her when she asks again, right? Like really quick, he says, no, I wouldn't. Because he knows now, or he's on the way to knowing. And he wants to reassure her, no, this hypothetical criminal, who is not hypothetical at all, I would not turn them in. And again, this is happening really quick, but you can see how she's taking in this information. She looks away and down, and you can see, again, even behind those big glasses and that scarf, you can see the gears are turning and hope is dawning. Keenan, I did not expect to be blown away by this scene. In all the scenes of the famous The Exorcist, like you think of the standout scenes, you think of like the power of Christ compels you, you think of Demi, why you do this to me. But this scene, like people might not necessarily remember the details of this scene, might not even remember this scene is in the movie. But here I am, flabbergasted by everything these two actors are giving us. Like I said before, that this reminds me of the fencing match between Karras and Kinderman. Now, I don't know. I feel like it's just as intense, maybe even more intense, more fraught, as you have put it in the past. I think between the two, I might actually like this one more. And maybe that's because we understand the stakes for Chris. Like she's fighting for her daughter. And maybe also like with Kinderman, it's like watching two well-trained fencers go at it. But here it's like Karras is a trained fighter and Chris has to pick up a sword for the first time. And we're like, wow, she's fumbling her way through this, but she's also getting some hits in. She's dodging some hits. It's like she's thrusting and he's parrying and she's no, I just said the same thing. I said the same fucking thing, which is proof that in a fencing match I would be dead. Right,
even though they have the little balls at the end, so you can't get killed. You would find
I would somehow, if Palpatine can return, I can die from a safety fencing sword.
But this has always been one of my very favorite scenes in the movie. This I do remember this scene pretty well. Well, what I do remember is the ending of it where she breaks down.
Right.
So that is one of my very favorite things about the whole movie. I could do horror movies without any demons in them, please. I'm a scaredy cat, and just to remind people, I'm a real wuss. So I could do the horror movies where there's drama going on, and I could skip past the demons. But no, this I think it's really just it. Yeah, you said flabbergasting. I was trying to find a better way of saying flabbergasting without saying flabbergasting again. But yeah, flabbergasting. I think she is so great in this movie. Yeah, and so you're comparing it to the Kinderman scene with Karras. They're also, it's basically a walk and talk as well, right? We're walking through, and then he's going to start doing some of the things that Kinderman has done in our previous one, like stopping to control the flow of the conversation, etc.
Right. Yeah.
But with Kinderman versus Karras, it is this duel of professionals.
Yes.
So it's about Kinderman as the detective and then Karras as the doctor priest combined, where he is, potentially protecting his own priest, protecting his ministry, etc., and working as a professional. Here with Chris, I mean, this is like if she's fencing, but she's holding her baby in her other hand.
Yes. Oh, that is another good visual. Yeah. I don't mean that. A good metaphor. There we go.
Yeah, we're not saying to go do that.
No,
and
don't.
See how your fencing game gets upped.
It's how the pros train. They're just holding a sack of potatoes, and they're like, ah.
Right, but they have to draw little pictures, little faces on the potatoes, and name them.
How do you
name each of them?
How do you know it's a baby if you don't draw the face? You
right, exactly. This is Evelyn, and this is Petey.
Gotta give them a whole backstory.
Exactly. Yeah, but so she is thrusting and parrying, whatever those words mean. I don't know. But she's doing it, and sometimes she's spot on, but sometimes she is swinging wildly.
Like that depends on what? On the priest. It's like boom, right? Yeah. If there was an audience, everyone would be like holding up the little point cards, right? It's like, exactly. That's an 8.5, right? Or excellent move by Karras there. Oh, yeah. But yeah, so just back to the dialogue here, right? Karras admits that he wouldn't turn this criminal in. He says, no, I wouldn't, but I would try to convince him to turn himself in. And we can see also how that lands, which is to say, not at all. She's like, yeah, that does not apply to my situation. Like, that is a thing that is not going to happen. So she's like, okay, I gotta play my cards here. I gotta go all out here. Now's the time. So after a beat, she says, and how do you go about getting an exorcism? Boom. Now, so many things happen in this little exchange. As she says this, her body sort of holds and then lets it all go. How do you go about getting an exorcism? And she just continues to walk. It's done. It's out. It's almost like a mic drop. So much is communicated by the fact that Chris is not looking at him when she says this, that her eyes are not locked on his, trying to gauge his reaction. So much is communicated by the fact that she just drops it and keeps walking. It's different from her not being able to look at him because she's embarrassed. That's not what this is. She's beyond that. She has decided to say this thing, and it's almost like in that moment his reaction doesn't even matter. What matters is that she is finally able to say it, finally able to let it go. It's like, I've come this far, I'm gonna say this, and whatever happens, happens. That's what I get from her. So Keenan, your observation about like why this scene is important, this right here, right? Like this is the climax moment. It's like, like she said it. She said the thing.
She hasn't said it to Mary Jo. She hasn't said it to Sharon. She hasn't said it to Willie. Right? This is the first time she's saying it out loud.
Yeah. And that's the focal point of this scene, right? So forget that, we have the rules about like, okay, we don't need to reiterate the problem, Chris. It's like, you mean an exorcist? Like, when last on The Exorcist? Right? Like, that would be true if that were this type of scene, but this is not that type of scene. The challenge, the hurdle, and the climax is when she finally gets it out, right? And you can see how it affects him. He stops walking. And I got to give Jason Miller credit here, folks. The way that he does this, you would think that this is like his first day on set and he didn't know the title of the movie that he's in. Right? And no, like,
it was Untitled Ellen Burstyn Project, 1973.
Look, you're a boxing priest. You're having this interaction with a movie star. Go.
Well, clearly, I'm gonna flirt with her, right? It's a rom-com, and this is Jason Miller's flirt face this whole time.
Yeah. That's how he flirts.
Right. That's how I flirted. That's how I flirted at parties. That's how he flirts in rom-coms.
Right. Perfect. Love it. But yeah, so like Keenan, you hear those little anecdotes all the time, how like they switch the dialogue at the last minute so that they can capture a real reaction from the actor. Like how the chest burster splattered all over them in Alien, and their reactions are 100% authentic because they didn't know what was actually gonna happen, right? Like you hear those anecdotes and you see the finished film and you're like, well, you say that, but really it could go either way for me, right? But this shot right here, if you told me Jason Miller thought they had brought him on for a boxing celebrity priest rom-com movie, and this was the first time he heard anything about exorcisms, I would believe you. I'm like, that man did not know he was in The Exorcist until just now.
Right, exactly.
Folks, go back and look. It's even more subtle than you think. He actually looks at her before she says it. So already it's not like she says it and he does a double take, right? He's already looking at her like you would when you're not acting. Most actors would wait until the next line, the important line, but he's already looking at her because they are living in that conversation, so much so that when she does say it, he just stops, like does not compute. Like whatever I thought this was, I was not expecting this. And because he has already been looking at her before she said it, now Jason Miller has to express surprise another way. Watch his face. It's very small and very subtle, but so much goes on there. You see the gears turning behind those eyes. After about a second, his brows furrow, and it's like he's seeing her for the first time.
Right.
And then his brows go back up, and he smiles this confused, like, are we joking? Smile as he says, beg your pardon?
Like people of our generation might have said for a little while, are you punking me?
Yeah.
Right. Is this a candid camera show?
Right. He might look around like where's the phone? Where's it's like, what's going on?
Your famous movie star, Chris MacNeil.
Am I on like is this a new show you do? Like Punked with Chris MacNeil.
Punked, yeah.
You just got punked.
Did you ever see Punked?
No, I didn't. Did I just say the catchphrase without knowing it?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
It's Candid Camera, but with pranks, right? So it's Ashton Kutcher, and he tries to do it on celebrities because it's more fun than like the ones today where people mess with like just regular people who are at the store. I don't get why that's fun at all.
I don't know.
Like here's some guy at Walmart and he's trying to buy food for his children. We're gonna go fuck with this guy. No, it's always celebrities. And sometimes they're really mean. Like I forget who it was, but they had a clothing line and then they hired this team to pretend that they're like the FBI, and the clothing line has sweatshops that this celebrity, fashion designer person doesn't know about, and so they're going in and like saying, "Oh, you're being arrested because your whole clothing line is full of sweatshops."
Oh my God. Okay, like when did this originate? With this like the 80s? The 90s?
This is in the 2000s. This is Ashton Kutcher.
No, I mean this concept.
Well,
like the Candid Camera thing.
Candid Camera is in the 60s, but Candid Camera, obviously is much more genial than usually it's like, here's us doing some crazy thing, and then you're just the bystander. We're not like putting you in an uncomfortable situation of your own. Yeah.
Because I was gonna say like maybe this type of show had its moment, had its time, like in the 80s, and it's like, oh, and everything's it's like nobody has anything to worry about. Nobody's walking around like with just the weight of their own existence on their shoulders, And I'm thinking like, because every time I see those, and it's all over TikTok too, especially like parents doing it to their kids, and it just always seems mean. But even not like let's forget like parents being horrible for just a second on the Exorcist Minute, but. Like whenever I see these, like where it's people doing it to other people, I'm just thinking like, but what if that person is just really having a bad day and all they want to do is go into 7-Eleven and get like, a Diet Coke or something like that. And then I think, wait a minute, it's 2023. Of course they're having a bad day. Everyone is having a bad day. The default is bad day.
Yeah. Are you having a bad day? Is there any other kind?
No. In 2023, nobody is having a great day like they were maybe in the 80s, or like we thought they were in the 80s, right? So I feel like this show is done. This show needs to be put away because like you're bothering someone who already is like just suffering a bit too much. So leave them alone,
Leave everybody alone.
Leave everybody alone. Why do you think introverts are the hip thing now?
Yeah, it's cool to be an introvert.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, Karras has that sort of reaction, right? He's like, like, are we, what is this? Yeah. So I get to meet a movie star and then I'm getting my leg pulled, right? This is Father Dyer's prank, right?
Oh, that's exactly, because it's like, did Father Dyer tell you? And it's like, oh, Father Dyer. Okay. All
right.
This is Father Cutesy Flip, Yeah. Okay. All right. What are we doing? Where's the criminal? Like, let's see,
Right. Then he comes out in like a Hamburglar costume.
Oh, wait, yeah. So she's already said exorcism, and then Father Dyer comes out in those, those like long red pajamas type thing,
right?
With the little, and the little open flap on the butt, right?
Oh God, yeah.
And he's got like little devil horns. He's got a tiny pitchfork and a little tail.
Says, I've been really bad.
We're just trying to cheer you up, Karras. God, yeah. That would be even worse. Oh my God.
Worse than the demon that's going to kill him.
Well, yeah, you know what? I retract that statement. Spoilers.
Sorry.
Oh my God. We don't want them to feel bad until the very end. But okay. So even before we cut away from him, right, from Karras, that confused, sort of sarcastic smile melts away into what seems maybe like genuine concern, but not genuine, like, oh my God, an exorcism. It's genuine concern for her mental state. Like, he looks worried for her now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then we cut to a medium close-up of Chris. She's sort of half-turned, but also looking at him. Now she turns fully in his direction, licking her lips, and she begins, and now, folks, we can see and hear her pain. Because even though he hasn't said anything except beg your pardon, she has already read in his face and in his voice that he is not going to help her. And it is heartbreaking to see and hear as she once again stumbles through her words, but this time it sounds so much more hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
Like before, we applauded her for getting through it, but here it's like she's been mortally stabbed in this fencing match, and she knows she's dying, knows she's losing, but she's still going.
Mm-hmm.
She's already losing hope, and she's beginning to cry as she says these words. It's like so tough to watch. She says, if a person's possessed by a demon or something. But then she rallies and she continues with a bit more conviction. She asks, possessed by a demon or something. She's getting back up. She was down, but not out. But that is the end of this minute and the end of my notes. Keenan, how about you? Is there anything else I missed here?
Yeah, not that you missed, but we're on this shot here, and it's rather unusual for The Exorcist. We're in a really long lens, and the background is way, way, way out of focus, and there's not a whole lot of visual information back there. That's really pretty rare, and I was skimming through the movie trying to see if we've done that before. We do it a lot. It's very common in a lot of movies. So say like when you're getting a glamour shot, like for your headshots or something,
right,
you'll get a really long lens and you'll blur out the background. It'll be pretty indistinct, and it makes you focus on yourself, right? The background is just sort of a feeling rather than anything discernible.
Yeah.
But in The Exorcist, we haven't been doing that. So this is one of the few times, if not the only time so far, I skimmed through a couple times trying to find them, where we're in a close-up basically of Chris. We're going to be joined by Father Karras in a second in it as this like profile shot where we're really flattening the space and, getting really close to somebody while it does the opposite of what we normally use it for in terms of glamour, in terms of like focusing and making something beautified. Like it's flattened and even claustrophobic.
Yeah.
Right. The background is just this sort of gray nothingness. And we're in profile of these two people as they're looking at each other. So we're going to pick that up in the next minute.
Yeah. Actually, Keenan, I think I remember, didn't they use this same shot when she says, "You're telling me I should take my daughter to a witch doctor"?
Let me look through. I was trying to scan through where we had it.
Because I remember you had said something similar.
Oh, yes. I'm looking at that shot here. Yeah, that one it's the same sort of idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I feel it more in the other one because in this shot of
in this one for this minute,
yeah, in this Karras scene, because now I'm looking at the Berenger one, and you could still tell what's behind you, like it's a picture frame or a mirror, and like a little table with the phone. Like, so I think I feel it in this one even more because there's like nothing. It's like we're in a void.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's just no information back there again. And she just bared her soul, and then it's like you've done the thing that you haven't wanted to do this entire time, right?
Right.
Admit what's really going on here, and admit that you need God, you need, that's a big thing, right? Yeah, you need God. You need Jesus, right?
Yeah.
And you've done that admission, and he's not on your side yet, right? And it's still like, so like here you are with him, and it's still somehow claustrophobic and alone,
right,
and nothingness there.
Oh, that is a really, really good point. Yeah. Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, just like, folks, so much being said about just the shots, right? It doesn't even take time. Like, it takes less than a second. We look at these shots and we get the feeling like Keenan is describing from not the words, not the, not any kind of like hand holding. It's just this subconscious thing that we get all from the construction of, having like a really long lens or something like that.
Right.
That is really cool.
And these things hit us instantly. Alexander McKendrick, the director and film theorist, says movies happen pre-verbally, right, before we're able to put them into words.
Oh, I like that word, pre-verbally.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah. It takes you get it, and then it takes us 2 or 3 minutes to explain what you're getting, right?
Yes.
But then, of course, it takes the filmmakers 4 or 5 hours to set up the shot, right?
Oh,
that we understand within seconds.
Nice. Okay, yeah, and then like going backwards, just like working to construct a feeling that we feel without even knowing we feel it.
Right.
Like, and then it taking like milliseconds for us to feel it, and then not even realizing why it's affecting us this way.
Right.
Not even, pre-verbally. I like that. Okay, I'm gonna start using that.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay.
That's the power of cinema, baby.
The power of cinema compels you. There we go. All right, folks, this has been another excellent Exorcist Minute. I've been Lester Ryan Clark. You can find me on all the socials as Lester Ryan Clark.
And I've been Keenan Diaz, and you can find me on Instagram and Letterboxd as Howdy Keenan.
Yeah, we got our group, Compelling Conversations. Go check that out and request to join, and we'll let you in here with us. That's on Facebook. And thank you so much to everyone who has shared the show by word of mouth or on social media. And a big thank you to everyone who has given us a 5-star rating and a little comment on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen to our show. We really appreciate it. It's going to help our little podcast grow and find more cool people like you. We're also The Exorcist Minute. So not only Keenan and I, but The Exorcist Minute is also available on all the socials. On Twitter, it's just Exorcist Minute. And then we got an Instagram that's The Exorcist Minute, and we got I already said the Facebook group thing. Yeah, we're slowly building out the socials. So seek and you shall find. That's in the Bible, right?
Sounds like it.
Okay. I'll just say it is. All right.
Yeah, who's gonna find out?
Who's gonna fact check us? Huh? All right. Keenan, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I think I am, Lester.
Folks, until next time, the power of a dream that you had you'll do.
Ever had a dream that you
want them to do so much that you could do anything? Carl, who put this crucifix under my pit? Madam, have you ever had a moment where you could do Father, wait up. Do you like movies? Have you ever seen a movie where you could, you could do, you like the movie so much that you could watch it again?
Now, my vision of heaven is that in heaven there's you could have there's a nightclub of white, and you could have everything. I got the worst one. Okay, you ready? Dimmy, why you do this? You could do this, Dimmy. No, Dimmy, you could be anything.
Do you know what she did? You could you're cunting. You said she did anything? Your mother's you could. You